What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another FPL Transfer Talks video on the channel. And in today's one, we're going to be discussing all things to do with Game Week 2. And I want to start off by saying, I actually think the best thing to do in Game Week 2 is to just simply roll the transfer. I know it might seem hard, I know it might seem difficult, but sometimes, guys, the best thing to do is just nothing. And it's simple as that, right? I don't think we should be knee-jerking too much. I don't really think we should be using transfers unless we have maybe an injury concern in our squads. That is my honest opinion. But with that being said, let's start off by talking about the Liverpool players, and let's start off with Hugo Ekitike, guys, because he has actually already had a price rise and is now costing 8.6 million, which is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. What on earth are we doing here, guys? Seriously? People are bringing in Ekitike when he's got Newcastle away and Arsenal at home as his next two games. This is a clear example of knee-jerking, guys. As I said, sometimes the best thing to do is just nothing, right? I don't think we should be wasting a transfer bringing in Hugo Ekitike when his next two games are against two tough defences, Newcastle and Arsenal. Right? It just doesn't make sense. Newcastle, from a defensive point of view, looked brilliant against Aston Villa. They defended in this sort of 4-5-1 formation, and they looked really hard to break down. I think Liverpool are going to struggle away at St James's Park. But for some reason, just because Hugo Ekitike scored 1 goal, 1 assist, people are bringing him in with two tough fixtures. As I said, it's a prime example of knee-jerking. I would be strongly avoiding Hugo Ekitike as an FPL asset for game weeks 2 and 3. It just doesn't make sense, right? I know he looked brilliant against Bournemouth. I'm not denying that. I am not denying that, guys. Hugo Ekitike looked class in the first game, 100%. But as I said, it's not the right time to be bringing in Ekitike. I've even had some people asking me, should they be selling Ollie Watkins to bring in Hugo Ekitike? Guys, this is absolutely bizarre. It's bizarre. No, you shouldn't. If you've got Ollie Watkins, guys, just keep him. As I said, stop being so reactionary. I get it, right? I get it. It's frustrating when your player does blank. But at the end of the day, guys, it's the first game of the season, right? Ollie Watkins, for example, has really good fixtures coming up. And we know what he can do in the Premier League. He's Premier League proven. This man is a player that scores goals. We've seen him do it year in, year out. So for me, just because Ollie Watkins blanked in game week 1 and Hugo Ekitike got 11 points in game week 1, it doesn't mean that we should be selling Ollie Watkins and now buying Ekitike. Absolutely not, right? Look at these fixtures that Ollie Watkins has, for example. Brentford away, who we just saw get destroyed by Nottingham Forest, right? Then Crystal Palace at home, then Everton away, then Sunderland, Fulham and Burnley. For me, Ollie Watkins is an easy hold all the way up until game week 7, guys. It's as simple as that. So for me, as I said, I'm gonna say it one more time. Do not buy Ekitike. It's not the right time to buy him. And if you are looking or considering selling Ollie Watkins to buy Ekitike, I would strongly be against that, right? I would not be doing it at all. So yeah, that's just my opinion. And again, the same thing goes for you know, Cody Gakpo. I wouldn't be looking to buy Cody Gakpo, in my opinion. The next two games are going to be tough for Liverpool, in my opinion. As I said, Arsenal, Newcastle, tough games for me. I would not be, you know, willingly bringing in players with those two difficult games. And look, in terms of Florian Wirtz, guys, what I would say with Florian Wirtz, right, is a lot of people are actually transferring him out. So people are frustrated with Florian Wirtz. And again, it for me, it's just so reactionary. Guys, we had so long in pre-season, right, to come up with a plan, to come up with a strategy that we're happy with, right? We had so long to prepare in pre-season. So you knew, right, that Florian Wirtz had these fixtures coming up when you decided to include him in your game week 1 squad. It was never a guarantee that Florian Wirtz would score or assist against Bournemouth at home, right? And you knew that after the Bournemouth game, you know, he had Newcastle away and Arsenal at home. So if it was never part of your original plan to sell Wirtz after game week 1, I would not be selling him, right? Again, I would not be sort of tearing up your FPL team or sort of going against your original plan that you made in pre-season just after one game week. It doesn't make sense. I get it. Wirtz was very underwhelming, but for me, if you have him, I still wouldn't be selling him if you planned on holding him for the long term, right? So many people were twerking for Florian Wirtz in pre-season, saying that, you know, he's massively underpriced, he's going to be so good at his price point, 8.5. So many people were saying that they were going to keep him for the long term. And if you are one of those people that planned on keeping Florian Wirtz for the long stretch of fixtures that Liverpool have, I wouldn't be selling him now in game week 2 just because he blanked in game week 1. So for me, what I'm trying to reiterate here is just to stick to your original plan that you had and don't be so reactionary. This is another key point I want to make, guys, right? Is that every single transfer that you make in for game week 2, you're only basing it off 1 week's worth of information, and so much could change. Right, so much could change in game week 2, in game week 3. We could get new information, new players might become options. I just don't think it's ideal, really, to be making a transfer just based off 1 week's worth of information. We still have so much to learn, guys. So as I said, the best thing to do is nothing. Ideally, you want to roll the transfer. Of course, for the future, Ekitike could be a good pick. Of course, for the future, Gakpo could be a good pick. But right now is not the time to bring these players in. That's just my opinion. So moving on, we do have Tijani Reijnders and Reijnders Cherki. These two Manchester City players looked really, really good in the opening fixture against Wolves away. And funnily enough, once again, another player here has actually risen in price, and that is Tijani Reijnders. He is now costing 5.6 million at the time of recording. Listen, again, you guys know my thoughts, right? I think the best thing to do is just roll, right? I don't really think it's a good idea to be reactionary, but I have to admit, right, Tijani Reijnders does look like an absolute steal at his price point, right? He looked amazing in that game against Wolves away. I was so impressed with what I saw. And again, for me personally, right, I do believe, and again, it might be easy for me to say because I've got Reijnders in my team already, right? I had him in game week 1, but although he looked absolutely fantastic, I still wouldn't be sort of scrambling, right, to get Reijnders in my team for game week 2. That's my honest opinion. When you look at the fixtures, Spurs at home, Brighton away, Man United at home, and Arsenal away, I don't think you have to rush to bring in Reijnders. I honestly don't think you have to rush to bring him in. Yes, he looked fantastic, but still, we have so much more to learn, right? As I said, it's only been 1 game week. We have so much more to learn. For all we know, right, he could go and get benched in the next game week, because let's not pretend that he's not playing under Pep Guardiola. Let's not pretend that Pep Guardiola loves rotating players regardless of how good they've been. We've seen countless times players perform well in this Man City team, and then bang, next thing you know, they're sitting on the bench, right? So we as I said, we have so much to learn. So for me, again, I wouldn't be rushing to go and get Tijani Reijnders. And a lot of people have been asking me, you know, is Reijnders going to be a consistent starter? Guys, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys and lie to you guys and act like I know that Reijnders is going to be a consistent starter, because to be honest, I have no idea. And no one does, right? Unless your name is Erling Haaland, I don't know if you're going to be in that starting Man City 11 week in, week out. It's just a simple fact, right? It's a simple fact. So, look, for me with Reijnders, if I didn't have him, right, because he's so cheap, even if he does go up in price, even if you do lose a bit of value, I don't think it's the end of the world, right? So because he's so cheap and because the fixtures aren't necessarily great coming up, I would be more than comfortable with just sort of sitting back and just seeing how things go with Reijnders. Is he a consistent starter? Does he get 90 minutes more times than not? These are the questions that are yet to be answered because only 1 game week has passed. So as I said, I think Reijnders is great. Absolutely fantastic, but I wouldn't really be rushing to get him in now for game week 2. But I do want to say, right, overall, right, my thoughts on Reijnders as an FPL pick, I want to quickly speak on that. And I think he's absolutely fantastic. I really, really do. His positioning, his attacking ability is absolutely fantastic. The technical ability he's got, you know, his dribbling, his close control, really, really good. But for me, the most important thing is the attacking spaces he picks up. He essentially plays in a number 10 role, and I absolutely love that. And I just think, wow, if he's a consistent starter in this Manchester City team at the price of 5.5 or 5.6 million, my word, we do have a seriously undervalued player here, man, or underpriced player here, because I think he genuinely is an FPL asset waiting to explode, especially in those easier games for Manchester City, right? So yeah, for me, Reijnders, he's going to be a top pick, but as I said, I wouldn't be rushing to go and bring him in because the fixtures aren't necessarily great and we've got so much more to learn. In terms of Reijnders Cherki, again, for me, Reijnders Cherki, I'm going to be honest, even though he scored, I still would just avoid him, right? Absolutely just avoid Reijnders Cherki. I absolutely love him as a player. You guys know it. I say it all the time. I genuinely think he's one of the best players, one of the best footballers in the Premier League. As simple as that, right? The man is absolutely amazing. He's 2-footed, left foot, right foot. He can strike the ball with it. It doesn't matter, right? The technical ability, the ability to create chances, beat a man 1v1. The guy can do it all, right? He can finish, score goals, assist, create chances. He can do everything. He's a fantastic player. I don't doubt the ability. However, game week 1 proved that he can't be trusted as an FPL asset, right? We saw him get benched, so he cannot be trusted, especially when European football starts as well. So for me, Reijnders Cherki, although he's a quality player, he's an easy avoid. I think Reijnders, I could slightly trust a bit more than Cherki and these other attackers because I feel like the competition is a lot less, which is why I actually did start with Reijnders, because I believe this competition for places wasn't as high, especially with Rodri in the team. So, especially with Rodri out of the team, sorry. So yeah, for me, yeah, they're just my thoughts on Reijnders and Cherki. I will say, right, because obviously, well, if you've not already bought Reijnders in before his price rise, I certainly wouldn't buy him now. If you did buy him because you saw he was going up in price, fair enough, I guess. Fair enough. I think that extra 0.5 million that you save can, you know, provide, you know, serious value somewhere else in your team in the future. So fair enough. I kind of do understand that a little bit. But yeah, ideally, guys, you want to be avoiding Reijnders Cherki, and yeah, if you've not bought Reijnders in before his price rise, I certainly wouldn't be rushing to bring him in, especially ahead of the Game Week 2 fixture, which is Tottenham at home. So let's talk about Cole Palmer, guys. At the time of recording, he has been transferred out by 118,000 FPL managers, guys. And to be honest with you, although I really do sort of disagree with making transfers in Game Week 2, and I think the best thing to do is roll the transfer, I have to be honest with you guys. I can understand the frustration. And to be honest with you, this man is on extreme fraud watch. I can't lie, right? I'm also an owner of Cole Palmer, and he is on thin ice. It's simple as that, because the early signs are not positive. What I saw against Crystal Palace was an absolute disgrace, and honestly, I got flashbacks to the Cole Palmer we saw of last season. It's not looking good. It is not looking good from a positional point of view, from an FPL perspective, right? The potential for points with Cole Palmer does not seem to be high as it used to be, right? Because once again, he's playing in that same left 10 role we saw Cole Palmer play last season under Maresca, and basically that was sort of the worst period of Cole Palmer in that second half of the season, and he's back playing there again, and he didn't look good, right? In the Crystal Palace game, there was a lack of creativity from Cole Palmer. There was sort of a lack of just goal scoring opportunities for Cole Palmer, and as I said, the early signs are not positive at all. So for me, even though the upcoming fixtures are good with for Chelsea, I'm gonna be honest, I'm going to really give him maybe until the Fulham or Brentford game, and if he still doesn't look good, I would definitely be looking to bring him out. I still think, you know, transferring him out now in Game Week 2 is just a bit too early, right? Because things could change. But for me, as I said, he is on thin ice and I'm watching him closely. And since we are on the topic of Chelsea, guys, I just quickly wanted to touch on Marc Cucurella. After watching that Crystal Palace game, man, I really do think Cucurella at the price of 6 million is going to be a fantastic pick. Again, similar signs to the second half of last season in terms of his attacking positioning. It's absolutely ridiculous. So the advanced runs he was making, the amount of times he was picking up spaces in the box was very promising, and I do think, you know, the clean sheet potential is there with Cucurella, but also of course the attacking threat, the ability to score goals, the ability to assist is certainly there with Marc Cucurella. So definitely keep an eye on Marc Cucurella, because I do think that, as I said, the fixtures for Chelsea long term are really good, guys. So I do think if you are looking for a defender at the price of 6 million, Cucurella genuinely could be one of the best long term options, because he can give you clean sheets and attacking returns. So he is definitely one for me to keep a massive eye on. So let's talk about Anton Semenyo, guys. And at the time of recording, he has been transferred in by a staggering 372,000 FPL managers, and therefore has had a price rise up to 7.1 million. And I have to be honest, man, after watching his performance against Liverpool, I can understand why, man. He was absolutely sensational, and the 2 goals that he scored were brilliant, especially that second goal. The thing is with Semenyo, I do think from this point onwards, right, from Game Week 2 onwards, it just makes sense to have him. It really does. And of course, you guys know my thoughts. I think the best thing to do is roll the transfer. But if you had any issues in your team, or you are really convinced by Semenyo as a pick, then I can understand why I've brought him in, man, because the fixtures from Game Week 2 onwards are just absolutely ridiculously good for the long term as well. He's a good long term set and forget hold. He's got Wolves at home in Game Week 2, Spurs away in Game Week 3, then Brighton at home, Newcastle at home, then Leeds away, Fulham at home, and Palace away. So yeah, from like Game Weeks 2 all the way up to like Game Weeks 9 or 8, the fixtures for Semenyo are really good. And the thing is, for me with Semenyo, right, yes, he will miss chances. I'm not going to sit here and act like Semenyo is the most clinical player, because he does miss chances. I mean, against Liverpool, he certainly was clinical, but at times he can be pretty rash, sometimes in front of goal. But for me, I do think he's only getting better as a Premier League player. I do think he's only getting better as a footballer, and I love his ability, his two-footed ability to shoot, you know, left foot, right foot. It doesn't really matter with Semenyo. You can go either way on either foot, and I like that a lot. And also, as an FPL asset, right, Semenyo is just simply reliable, right? 90 minutes guaranteed, starting week in, week out guaranteed. So with these fixtures, you kind of know what you're getting with Semenyo. Yes, as I said, last season wasn't the most consistent, pretty frustrating at times, but he can certainly score goals, he can certainly assist, and he's always involved in the attack. He is the heart of that Bournemouth attack, right? So for me, I like him a lot. I like him as a pick. I also do think Even Nelson, right? Shout out to Even Nelson. I do think he is also a pretty decent pick if you were looking for a forward option for game week 2 onwards, because as I said, the fixtures for Bournemouth are really, really good. So yeah, Anton Semenyo, love him as a pick. All right, guys. So next up, I wanted to speak on the Newcastle defense, because I actually do think they have gone under the radar, and I do think not for game week 2, but for game week 3 onwards, these Newcastle defenders could be fantastic options for our FPL teams. I want to specifically speak on Shaw and Burn, but it could be any Newcastle defender. But I was really, really impressed with the Newcastle shape and the Newcastle setup out of possession and the way they defended in the Aston Villa game. They defended in this 4-5-1 formation, and it seemed to work really, really well. They were really difficult to break down. They only had an expected goals conceded of 0.20 as well, right, which is really, really low. And even on the eye test, we could see how poor Aston Villa were. We could see how, you know, Newcastle did stifle the Aston Villa midfield and really, really just sit in that low block, right? And it was difficult for Aston Villa to create lots of, you know, good quality chances against Newcastle. And I just have been thinking, did we kind of overlook these Newcastle defenders? Because Newcastle over the years have been a pretty solid and reliable defense that we can trust on, especially in FPL. And when you look at the defensive contributions as well from Shaw and Burn, it is promising, right? Both surpassed the defensive contributions threshold, which is positive. You can see Shaw got 11 defensive contributions and Dan Burn got 11 defensive contributions as well. So I just think from game week 3 onwards, knowing that they've got some quality fixtures, you know, Leeds away in game week 3, Wolves at home in game week 4, Bournemouth away in game week 5, Arsenal at home in game week 6 is tough, but then Nottingham Forest at home in game week 7. I do think the Newcastle defense, we definitely should be keeping an eye on them and potentially looking to bring their players in our FPL teams, because they've got the potential for defensive contributions, but also clean sheets as well. So yeah, I just think, guys, you know, if you are rolling a transfer in game week 2, and then you've got 2 free transfers to spend on your team and you need a new defender, I do think bringing in a Newcastle defender could definitely be a shout. Because the thing is with Shaw, the thing is with Dan Burn, not only can they pick up defensive contributions, not only can they get clean sheets, but even the attacking threat from set pieces is very, very high with these players. So I do like them as picks. Dan Burn being 5 mil is slightly better because he's cheaper than Shaw, but I also do like Shaw as a pick as well. Alright, guys, so let's talk about the Manchester United players, and more specifically, let's speak about Matheus Cunha, Bryan Mbeumo and Dorgu. Honestly, guys, I was so impressed with the performance that we put in against the Arsenal team, right? We absolutely battered them from start to finish. I don't know how we didn't win that game, but I was so impressed with Matheus Cunha, especially with Bryan Mbeumo and Dorgu, man. The signs are positive for the future. It's simple as that, guys. And for me, I do think we can now trust and rely on and really start to consider Manchester United players for our FPL teams. For me, when you look at the Manchester United attack and the final third, Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo are at the heart and at the centre of everything we do in the final third, right? Matheus Cunha was absolutely brilliant. The ball carrying ability, the ability to beat a man, and of course we know that Matheus Cunha can score goals. He was very, very unlucky not to score in the last game against Arsenal, and I do believe the goals are coming for Matheus Cunha, and the same thing goes for Bryan Mbeumo. He was so involved in everything we did in the final third, and Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo, they were linking up well. Bryan Mbeumo linking up well with Amad Diallo as well, and I do think he's a great FPL pick. The thing is with Bryan Mbeumo as well, he does take some set pieces, so his routes to points is actually slightly higher than Matheus Cunha, because Matheus Cunha doesn't really take any set pieces for us, but Matheus Cunha does take the left foot in swinging corners and some free kicks as well. So look, for me, I think in terms of attackers, right, Bryan Mbeumo at 8 million, Matheus Cunha at 8 million, absolutely fantastic. We know they're going to start as well, and we know they're going to play pretty much 90 minutes every single week, and Manchester United are no longer playing European football, guys. We've only got one game a week. So I do believe, right, our squad is going to be fit and ready to go every single week. And the quality of performances we're about to see is going to be a lot better than last season. I really am confident, guys. I wouldn't say I have Manchester United bias, right? This is honestly what I feel like based off what I saw yesterday. I do think the signs are positive. So even for my own FPL team, I'm strongly considering players like Cunha and Mbeumo. I've already got Dorgu in my team, and we'll touch on him in a second. But yeah, these two players here, I like them a lot. And I honestly think now's not a bad time to bring in some Manchester United players. I think maybe you'd want to wait a week. So maybe from game week 3 onwards, you bring in the Manchester United players. You know, in game week 3, we've got Burnley at home. Now, I do know in game week 4 and 5, we play against Man City away and Chelsea at home. That's not ideal. But after that, it's then Brentford away, who we saw are terrible, and then Sunderland away as well in 7. So I do think if you have sort of a team structure where you could bench maybe a Cunha or Mbeumo in game weeks 4 and 5 if you wanted to, and then start them in game weeks 3, 6 and 7, it does make a lot of sense to bring them in. But yeah, I do think for FPL, man, they're going to be absolutely fantastic. And I think the ownership at the moment is really, really low, because a lot of people obviously know how bad we were last season. I guess a lot of people weren't really confident in Cunha, in Mbeumo as picks, as they do play for Man United. But honestly, guys, I think now they could be pretty underrated and undervalued picks. So yeah, man, keep your eye out on Cunha and Mbeumo. I really do like them as options. And in terms of Patrick Dorgu at 4.5 million, I do think he could be an absolute steal. If we do continue to play the way we did in the last game against Arsenal, I do think Dorgu could be fantastic at his price point, because the attacking threat of Dorgu is absolutely fantastic. And I'm actually quite happy I've got him in my own team. I mean, what we saw, and it's not just a one game thing with Dorgu. We've seen it constantly last season, in pre-season, and now we saw it in the last game against Arsenal. The attacking threat that Dorgu has is really, really good. The attacking positionings, the runs he makes going forward, really, really good. He found himself in the penalty box near the back post so many times. He put in a great cross for Mbeumo, which he almost scored. He could have got an assist there. He hit the post as well from a wonderful strike just outside the box. Like, the attacking threat that Dorgu has, really, really good. So in terms of attacking contributions, the potential is high. And I'd say for defensive contributions, it's not as good as some other defenders. But I think at 4.5, because the clean sheet potential in some games is going to be really, really good for us, and the attacker threat is there, we could be looking at some mega hauls with Patrick Dorgu. And his ownership is really, really low. So at 4.5, I like him as a pick, especially because at that price point, 4.5, you're most likely going to be in a situation where you can just bench Dorgu, rotate him in and out of your team. So because he's so cheap, you can bench him in 4 and 5 and start him against Burnley, start him against Brentford, start him against Sunderland, and then the potential for points in those games are even higher. So yeah, man, the Man United players I'm a big fan of. It's not Manchester United bias, guys. You guys know that, watch me do the live watch-alongs and stuff. You know that sometimes I can, slate Ruben Amorim and say that I don't like him, I want him sacked, this, that, and the other. But honestly, guys, yesterday, if yesterday is sort of like a, what's the word I'm looking for? If yesterday is, I can't even figure the word I'm looking for, but if yesterday is a sign of things to come for the future, then yeah, I think our FPL players could be really, really good. Alright guys, so let's talk about Chris Wood and Anderson, and I want to start off by saying Chris Wood once again doing what Chris Wood does, scoring goals week in, week out. I mean, he is just carrying on his excellent form from last season into this season, and I do think he's a fantastic option to buy, right, for game week 2 and onwards. Obviously, I do think the ideal thing to do is roll the transfer, but if you are looking for a striker, maybe you had Solanke in your team, for example, to start with, and if you need to replace Solanke, then I would certainly be doing it with a player like Chris Wood at 7.5 million, because the fixtures are just simply too good to ignore. Really, I have to be honest, guys, right? Palace away in game week 2 is not bad, right? It's not necessarily the best fixture, but it's not bad. And then West Ham at home is great. Arsenal away in game week 4 is not ideal, but then in game week 5 it's Burnley away and Sunderland at home, right? So the fixtures from game week 2 to 6 overall, I like a lot. And as I said, if you have a player, maybe a dud in your team like a Solanke that needs replacing, then Chris Wood is certainly the one to buy as a replacement for Solanke. I love him as a pick, and he is just inevitable, man. Chris Wood, he just scores goals, right? The man has a knack for scoring goals. It's simple as that. He knows how to put the ball in the back of the net, and I think with Chris Wood, we know he's going to start. We know he's going to get 90 minutes. So really, the fixtures are good. I mean, he's just everything that you want in an FPL asset, and he takes penalties as well. So yeah, I love him as a pick. And what I would say is, yes, Nottingham Forest do play European football, but I don't really think that will affect Chris Wood too much. The Europa League doesn't actually start until the 24th of September, which is after the Burnley game in game week 5. So yeah, realistically, whilst the fixtures are good for Nottingham Forest, they don't play European football, which is very, very nice. That's exactly what we want, so they can remain fit and sharp and ready to go. So yeah, man, for me, Chris Wood, really, really good pick. I love him as an option. And I will say as well, with Anderson, I like a lot. Anderson was absolutely fantastic in the last game against Brentford. Really, really good. And for defence, he was so close to actually picking up the defensive contributions. He actually managed to get 11 defensive contributions, just one short of the threshold. And he also picked up an assist in that game as well. So I think Anderson at the price of 5.5, he could really prove to be just a good long-term enabler, right? Of course, I do prefer Reijnders at his price point, but maybe you're in a setup, right, where you need two 5.5 million midfielders. In that case, you can go for Reijnders and Anderson. So yeah, I just think Anderson is really, really good. His attacking threat in the game against Brentford looked good as well. He was getting shots off. He was creating chances. He's also taking some corners as well for Nottingham Forest. So he does have multiple routes to points there. He's got the DEFCON potential, the set piece potential, and just generally from open play, as I said, he was actually looking pretty advanced. And the pass he put through for Chris Wood's second goal, it was absolutely fantastic. And even Chris Wood's first goal, he took that corner, but unfortunately he didn't get the assist for it. So yeah, for me, Anderson, I like a lot. I really, really do like a lot. When you combine, again, the potential for points with the fixtures that they have, both these players here, Chris Wood, Anderson, fantastic picks. And I definitely would consider buying both players for game week 2 if your team needs a transfer. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. If you could smash a like on the video, that would be absolutely fantastic. And subscribe if you haven't already. I do appreciate all the love and support that you guys have shown me recently on the channel. So thank you guys so much. I will have my team selection video out tomorrow as well, so make sure you guys do stick around for that one, and make sure you guys do have the notification bell turned on so you never miss an upload or a watch along that we do on the weekends. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been your boy FPL Ryan, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. But until then, I'm out. Peace.